Good to be back. And actually, we were able to do some things with the guys last Friday and Saturday. Just kind of being on the field, just doing some conditioning work. But it was great getting everyone back together, and obviously today able to start a regular week of preparation. So I think everyone's energized by that, and looking forward to having a good week of prep to play a good Michigan team.
Jeff Patricus.
Yeah, Paul, you've always asked about when you're asked about playing young guys, you say, I will never play someone before they're ready to play. As you approach this week, are you going to be in a position where you won't have to play guys who may not be ready because you're having to fill in for somebody, or how does the personnel situation stand?
I think we've got certainly some guys that are working in the depth, right now with it, and that haven't played snaps or a lot of snaps, right? Or I think we got a couple guys that did some things on special teams, but now are getting some work with the first two groups on offense or defense, right? So I think I don't know how it's going to play out, Jeff, but I think we got some guys that we are because of the situation, both what they're doing and kind of how they're progressing, and obviously where the whole roster is, that we'll have some guys probably get some snaps that 3 weeks ago weren't probably in that position.
Go to Colton Bartholomew.
Oh, can you describe just what kind of challenge a guy like Joe Milton brings to you, because he is, kind of a dual threat guy, and he's shown a pretty big arm in the first few games here?
Yeah, no, he's obviously very talented, and you talk about his arm strength and his it jumps out at you, and quick release and the ball. He can throw a lot of different types of balls, right? And they've got good receivers to go get it, and obviously athletic, and then combine that with the size that he has. Obviously, it's a challenge, right? He's a good, in my opinion, he's a really good football player, and yet I think what makes him dangerous is that there's other guys around him, and I think there's enough things that they do well that it's a challenging week for our defense, and we got to be obviously locked in, and everyone's got to do their part, which is very typical of every week, right? I mean, that's not anything new there, but if you don't, they're not just him, but I think their offense can expose you.
Jim Polzine.
Hey, Paul, two-parter for you. One, you guys have been real transparent about giving us numbers on staff members that were affected, but that's kind of a broad, number. It includes so many different groups. Can you, will you be willing to be a little more specific on number of coaching staff that had positive tests? And along those same lines, you talked about how, you could have done a better job wearing a mask on the sidelines. Do you feel like there's any slippage within the building in terms of distancing and mask wearing?
Yeah, we've been really forthcoming in what we've been saying, right? It's probably to my chagrin on it, but it's we've got on staff number, we've had, obviously myself, we've had some coaches and some support people that have gotten it, but we've got just a couple that aren't with us right now, and as the week progresses, they'll come back, and I think that, a lot of what we were going through, you gotta look at everything, Jim, right? And what did we do? And I wasn't in every meeting, right? But I do know, and talking to it, we tried to follow a lot of those guidelines, and keeping distance and whatnot. And a big part of it too was that, we something happened whether there was we had to get someone to spread it while we were here, and I don't know if it was spread if we were on the practice field, if we were which they're not wearing their mask at that time, or it could be in a meeting, or it could have been in their apartment, and brought in. But certainly from our end of it, we got to look at everything that we can do, not knowing for sure if that's I told them last night and told them again last Thursday, I don't know, guys, we're going to do some things. We certainly think it's going to help. We don't know that this will be the answer. This is the silver bullet to it. But, that's why we're kind of spreading guys out in the locker room. I don't know that anything happened in the locker room, but I don't know that it didn't. Meetings were going to be going virtual, and I don't know if it was in the meeting room or not, but, as many things as we can do. And, you tried to follow it and what was recommended, and you can be, as long as you're socially distant, you go through and people were, but obviously we don't want to repeat what happened. And I don't know that we can be in control of everything, but you want to do all that you can.
Auerbach.
Yeah, I apologize in advance. My dog keeps barking, Paul. So
All right.
I just have two questions. The first one is, how many players do you think, or you're anticipating being without on Saturday? And the second part is, with the contact tracing, I know that, because of the daily testing pool, like you don't have to immediately put someone in quarantine. Do you guys think you'll change that to kind of maybe nip things in the bud a little faster moving forward?
Yeah, I think there's been some adjustments to that, particularly with some roommates. I know we've got some guys that are going through that right now, and specifically on how many we get back. There'll be a number. Honestly, I don't count. You kind of got an idea, and with this whole, there's a progression to the whole for a player. The 21 days back, and so which guys that you're talking to that you're not seeing every day, and then you start to see them in walkthroughs. But I couldn't tell you exactly everyone's number, what day they're on, and then they isolate for 10 days, and then they take these series of tests, and then there's a progression to getting back, which part of the end of that progression is practicing, right? I think we'll certainly get a couple guys back, I believe. But honestly, as you kind of go in it, you're kind of preparing with the group that you got right now.
Jesse Temple.
Paul, the team's obviously been through a lot the last couple of weeks. You talked about maybe playing more younger guys. What's been the message that you've had for the team, knowing that they're going through some different things and, maybe down some players? And then the second question is, I don't know if you can comment on this, but do you expect Graham to be available to start a quarterback for you against Michigan?
I think as far as the message to everyone is, it's been pretty consistent and constant, right? And you try to take advantage of the opportunities that you do get, and obviously we lost some opportunities, and so then it was, how do we do the best we can to be able to get back, right? And it's always been that where everyone's you're always encouraging them to work and do their part. This is a year where kind of something like COVID would open up an opportunity for someone else, right? But there's other years where it's an injury and boom, you're one snap, one play away from moving up in the depth chart or whatnot, right? So I think your messaging's the same that way. Is as you go, you're working and preparing, and you're trying to hone your craft best as you can. And Graham, the way that his is timing out, he'll be able to do. He's starting to kind of that process come back. His tests are all done, and so I think I think he'll be able to have some practice, and we'll see if it's enough practice time, right? You don't know that, and each guy is a little bit different. How do they handle all of it? So we'll kind of see on him and a couple other guys that were kind of in that early group of it.
Thank you for doing this. I was just wondering first, what was the situation like for you? I know you had been one of the ones who had tested positive. Just how difficult was it for you? And I know there are other teams in other conferences who've had to take a week off, maybe 2 weeks off for this kind of reason. I didn't know if you had spoken to any coaches, gotten any advice on just what it's like to come back from that long a layoff, how to deal with it and that type of thing.
Yeah, didn't reach out to anyone. You spent your time and energy just kind of working with our group. And personally, I really didn't have a lot of symptoms. So very different than a lot of people that have gone through this. So, I really didn't.
Yeah, Paul, you've had seasons where you had an off week and you got to prepare a little bit unusual schedule. Then bowl games, it's a little longer time. Does this compare to anything? Can you pull from either of those? Or is this completely different type of preparation?
I think it's different, Jeff, in that it's, really, we actually had, you had a pretty much a full game plan for Nebraska. And we practiced Monday and Tuesday for them. And then, we didn't have anything going on, right? And then we were starting to prep for and kind of even had us started some meetings for Purdue, whereas a bye week, right? You're not spending any of that time there. And you're also able to be on the field and doing things. So I think it's different that way. What's not different is that, you're not coming off of a game and whatnot, but it's probably very different than those, not very, but it's different enough.
Paul, we saw Rashod Goose do a really good job against Illinois, and he was a guy that Jim Leonard was very excited about coming into the year. As you've had some time to look at his play and how he's developed, what stands out to you?
It has been fun with Goose and kind of seeing him progress. And I think he was, he certainly spent a lot of time. He was very productive in the offseason. I remember him sending me stuff from, kind of the spring quarantine and then, some of the summer. So I think he spent a lot of time and kind of trying to hone his craft, his skills. And then I think there's also, I think he's kind of took a step in that, you're no longer a guy that just wants to play or, a young player. They want to play and then they want to play well. But I think he's had enough of that where he's really able to narrow his kind of focus and intent and really purposeful in his actions. And I also think, when I watch Goose, is a guy that's really enjoying playing, and I think that I don't know if that's, again, I attribute that sometimes to confidence, that he's not thinking, okay, what technique do I apply here? Or what is going on? Where is my help if there's help, or how am I going to play this? I think he's truly he's playing and I think that's been helpful for him. So it's been he's been fun to watch and me watching, kind of just seeing that progression and kind of how he's been going about his day to day with it. And I think it's been helpful for him.
Paul, Barry said last week that Troy Vincent reached out. Did you actually talk to Troy? And if not, even if you didn't, what in his materials that he gave you guys, what stood out about potential mitigation stuff that you guys may or may not have been doing?
Barry's the one that talked to Troy, and then he forwarded what I was able to, get from him. And I think a lot of it, there's some stuff, Jim, was really simple. Like if you're on an airplane and, we're sitting, we got a seat beside you, sitting, one guy if one guy's having a drink of water, the other guy keep his mask on, and then, so some really practical type things, just, kind of their procedure on, I think there's a couple things we pick up for just how we're going to load the buses or the plane. And then certainly there's some, you've talked to enough different guys and kind of how to just day to day do things. But it was, you appreciate just, there's a lot that you see and you say, okay, that confirms why we're doing it, or maybe we're not nuts in doing it. It's being recommended. And certainly there's a couple of things that you do pick up that like hadn't thought of it quite that way. So it was helpful.
Wrap things up with one more from.
There we go. But when you look at Michigan's defense, and they've been kind of up and down, they've had some of their stars. They announced today that Aiden Hutchinson broke his leg. But when you see a defense that's kind of inconsistent like that, do you have to prepare any different way or adjust how you think about it because you don't know what you're going to get drive to drive?
And I think you're right. There are some inconsistencies to it, but when I look at it and you prepare, you see a really good defense, challenging defensive scheme. Don Brown does a heck of a job with it, and you see a group of really good football players, right? And yeah, I see. There's a couple that. There's a receiver from Michigan State made some tremendous plays. And those count, but I don't know. I like our group, but you still got to go execute, right, and do that. You don't see a team with a ton of missed tackles or missed tackle opportunities. You don't. You'll see some things where they're always getting beat, maybe at the same thing, where you say, okay, this is something that they're just not covering, or they're vulnerable to it. So. I know where they're at and what other teams have done against them, but it's not one of those. A lot of it's not where you look up and say, okay, yeah, that's going to happen. We can bank on that being part of that's who they are this year. I think it's a defense that we've got a lot of respect for, and we've played them a lot and got a feel for it, and we've been inconsistent against them, right? And so. It's going to be a big week of preparation for our guys, and then it comes down to when you play, you've got to execute. And you're going to get a lot of different looks, and you got to play with great awareness. And I think that's one of the things that's challenging about playing them. And like I said, they've got really good football players. I think anytime you get a combination of really good football players and it's a good scheme, that's going to be a challenge.